Okay, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. A lot of people wanted to see satellites, so I went and dug back through. They're very rare to catch. I did find a couple that aren't archived back somewhere. So I think these are from 2014 or maybe even a little earlier. Anyhow, let's start out with some airplanes. It's always a cool treat when you're shooting and you see one coming and you think, oh boy, it's going to go over the moon. This will be a cool shot. You can see them coming, you can hear them, and usually the moon where I am has to be pretty low on the horizon to get a plane to cross. The higher it gets in the sky, the more your odds go down. One thing about this is look at the amount of exhaust that's coming out of this plane. And I noticed that the smaller jets like this, a lot less exhaust coming out of them. But the thing about planes, you can hear them long before they get here, so you know it's about to happen. They've got blinking lights, so if they're just under the moon, sometimes you can readjust the scope down and maybe try to get them that way. As you can see, the moon looks very gold. This was when we had the Meade, the big 12-inch Meade, when it was still working. Great optics, but one of the things we did not like is the color that I guess the lens, the lens coating or something gave it. We constantly got this gold color that we couldn't get rid of when we were filming the moon. We didn't care for that too much, but I guess it doesn't matter now because the Meade is gone. Alright, we're going to look at some satellites. These are very rare to be able to film and then ID a satellite. It's going to come at the left very quick, and it'll be going right now. It's going across just above the equator, and I'll zoom in on it. We believe this was one of the Cosmos satellites. And again, it is exceedingly rare to film a satellite transiting the moon and then be able to ID it. The next one we're a little more certain of because it was filmed from two states and ID'd. Comes in from the lower right here. This is real time, and it passes right there an object, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see both, but that is a satellite as well. So they kind of have one thing in common, all satellites. They look like they have a speed blur. They look almost see-through, and when they're going over the moon it almost gives the appearance of flapping wings. But let's zoom in on this object. Coming in at the lower right, there he is. And you can see the kind of see-through, like with the wings out or the solar panels or whatever that would be, spinning. And again, this was shot in two states, and it passes an unknown object. So we'll look at it again. Here it comes. This is the satellite, slowed way, way down, maybe to 30%. And as it gets up here, you'll see it passes an unknown object right there. And we'll come back and look at that. And you can see there is a definite difference between objects like this, and this one is very, very slow. A lot of these black objects, this one almost looks like it's tumbling as a matter of fact, or changing shape. But big difference between satellites. Satellites are very fast, and they're exceedingly rare to film. So we'll take a look at a couple more of these unknown dark objects later that aren't moving so slowly, that look like they're actually, under propulsion. This one looks like it's kind of drifting and tumbling almost. So we'll let this one finish out, and then we'll look at the classic boomerang that so many of us have seen. And here comes the boomerang on the right. Now you'll notice that it turns to the right, and then right there it looks like it turns back the other way to the left. It noses down, then it noses up just a little bit past level, and then it kind of just goes off frame there. This has always been a very interesting object, and objects like this are why I began filming on my channel. On the night of the supermoon in 2012, my nephew spotted what he called a tumbling black triangle, and as we watched the moon over many hours, we saw an endless line of these things transiting the moon from every direction, up, down, sideways, diagonally, and then my brother-in-law saw 5 to 7 of them in formation. And then it was just by pure luck that sometime later I filmed this, and I believe it to be probably the same objects. We had a better view that night. We were looking through an eyepiece, which means it's a crisper image and a more magnified view than you get with just, the telescope as a camera lens on your camera. Coming in at the bottom, this is the other one that was called the boomerang, but it almost looks like there's a companion object with it. And it looks as it turns, it drifts away. I don't know if it's just turning and that object is connected to it maybe, or maybe that's a companion object. I tend to think that it's probably all the same thing, and as it turns it just gives that appearance. Hard to know for sure. but it's definitely an interesting object. This was filmed, these two objects that you've just seen, not that far apart. Probably within a month or two. I would have to go back and look, but we had both of these objects within a similar period of time. Similar time of the year, I guess is a better way to say it. Okay, we're going to load up the next object here. And here he comes at the right. And so this is one of these very strange black objects that looks like it's under propulsion, and it looks like it has a little halo, which many of these things do. And that is not a product of encoding. When they're on the monitor, straight, fresh from the camera, before it's a video clip, you can see, if they're slow enough and you have time to really get your eyes on it, you can see the halo. And many of these, when you, like if I took a still and put it in Photoshop, you would notice a reddish tinge to the halo, and it's like a two-part halo. There's an inner core, a lighter halo, and then a really diffuse halo on the outside. Coming in at the right, going straight down, here's another one of these black objects, traveling in a perfectly straight trajectory. I have many of these things, all different sizes. Most of them are traveling at a decent speed, but nowhere near as fast as a satellite. And, you know, I always urge people to go do research on their own. Go look up the speeds of satellites and, you know, compare it to the images that I showed you at the beginning of this clip. You'll see that satellites are moving very quickly, and there's a really good shot of the halo with the filters run on it. You will find that, you know, the moon is only half a degree apart or wide in the sky, so catching anything transiting it, you know, you got to put in quite a bit of time. And when satellites go by and you're trying to look them up, you always see the same names in like Stellarium and other places. Cosmos pops up. There's a few where you just kind of start to recognize the name. Point is, it's not very often that they transit the moon. You get a lot of these unknown objects that look nothing like satellites, particularly the black ones with the halos that are not moving as fast as a satellite, but moving at a good clip and perfectly straight. What are these things? They're very interesting, and they're, as far as I have, you know, in my research, I've never seen anything described that approaches this look. Perfectly round black objects with kind of a halo. Most of them, almost to a clip, there is a halo on these black objects. Although a few of them look like they're tumbling. Alright, now we're going to load another interesting clip. At the time that this was shot, let me make sure it's the right one. Yeah, so you can see they were chemtrailing heavily this night, and at some times I couldn't see the moon because the debris was just blocking it out. But in one of the, you know, the times that I could see, this is what I filmed. A lot of people at the time commented that it looked like the Black Knight. I don't know, but this is a really interesting object. It's the only thing I've shot that looks like this. Kind of triangular. It looks like it tilts and then tips away from us at the end. So it kind of tilts down right there, and then it looks like it tips away. It's a very interesting object, and they were chemtrailing very heavily when I shot this. You can see all the junk blowing by. Alright, here's the last view of an object we're going to take. It's coming in at the top. Now watch this. As the camera pans right there, the object becomes perfectly round. So it's got this kind of speed blur on it, but watch when the camera pans near the bottom. It matches the speed of the object. It becomes perfectly round right there. And you can see it's a perfectly round little black thing when the camera matches the speed. So again, another one of these interesting things that is absolutely not a satellite, or at least not one we've been told about or shown. So there they are. Interesting stuff. Cheers.